Hello everyone, my name is Jean-Noël Collin. I'm a professor of computer security at University of Namur, Belgium, and today I will be talking about, guess what, computer security. I will first cover the core principle behind information security, and then I will go through several threats that you may be facing one day or another, and as well as cover some countermeasures you can apply to try to limit the impact of this kind of unwanted incident. So security is really about defining your objectives regarding three main criteria, which are confidentiality of your data, how to make sure your data is kept secret or away from any unauthorized eyes, integrity, how to make sure that your data is kept in a correct form so doesn't suffer any unwanted modification, and availability, make sure that your data and services are accessible at any time you need to reach them. Those are the main security criteria that you have to evaluate your needs against and define what are your actual requirements regarding all those three criteria. Define your confidential data, define the level of integrity you need to reach, define the level of availability you need to reach. And based on those requirements, level of requirements, you will be able to design an action plan and a security plan which is in line with your needs and also in line with your budget and resources. An action plan will be made of security measures along three different lines of protection. First line is prevention, where we will try to avoid the vulnerabilities and put everything in place to make sure that incident will not happen. But still consider that incident may still happen and make sure you have put in place detection means that will monitor your system and try to detect any potential incident. And in case an incident really happens, make sure you have the means to recover from that incident and to restore your system into a workable state. So this also requires its own set of actions. So security is really about identifying and mitigating risks, a risk being a threat against one of your value assets. So identify and mitigate the risks. Do not overestimate or underestimate the risk. So really act in a proportional way and think about security again and again. It's not security is not a matter of just one day in the year. No, security is really a matter for every day of the year. One important threat that organizations are facing, and I guess it's the same for your school as for my universities, those attacks that target the human factor. For instance, phishing and social engineering. Attacks by which an attacker will try to get someone to do something or to share information he shouldn't be sharing or something he shouldn't be doing. Like leaving a machine accessible, providing a password, or providing some sensitive information. The threats behind those attacks are really identity spoofing, someone pretending to be someone else, intrusion into your systems, data leaks because some files or database have been accessed. So this can really put you into deep trouble. Countermeasures will target the same target as the attack itself, namely the human factor. So if you want to defend against phishing and social engineering, the best place to act is with your users. Inform and train them about what is phishing, how to detect a phishing email, what is social engineering, how to identify it. So really train them about the challenges, the ways those attacks are carried out, and also define clear rules. So if there is no rule, no one knows how to behave. If you have clear rules and clear procedures, then everyone knows how to behave and how to react to any suspicious activity. For instance, a clear rule could be never share your password with anyone. This is a clear rule. Everyone is able to understand it. And if this rule is respected, then nobody will ever leak its password to anyone, and so you're closing the door to, for instance, identity spoofing. So really put the end user in the loop of the security. He's a major actor of the security. Malware is also a very well-known security threats. Everyone has heard about the ransomware, actually, which lock down your computer and files until you pay some amount of money, with no guarantee, by the way. So the threats behind the malware propagation is, again, loss of data, compromise of your system being, joining a botnet, a network of infected machines that are used later on to carry out large-scale attacks, data leaks. So again, a lot of unpleasant consequences. And the countermeasures here are maybe a bit more technical than for the previous attack. It's really about using proven and updated anti-malware. Make sure, I'm not pleading for using a paid for anti-malware, so I've nothing against a free anti-malware, but make sure that if you use a free anti-malware, it's a well-known, a proven, a recognized one. And also make sure you update it with the latest patch and malware signature very regularly. Take backups, because sometimes malware makes its way through the anti-malware, and so you end up with a system which is infected, and the only way to recover is to restore the state from a backup. So take backups of your main data and keep those copies safe outside of your, unconnected to your main system. Check the origin of downloads and share files. Be suspicious to any file coming from the outside. Be suspicious to any kind of shared media, USB keys, and the like. To limit the impact of the attack and the spread of a malware attack, try to stick to an isolation principle. So use separate subnetworks, isolated environments, so that if one environment gets compromised and infected, the malware will not be able to spread to other parts of the network or to other systems. And again, the end user is a major actor of the security of the system, so inform them about the best practices, what to do, what not to do. Inform users and train them again and again. You have probably a very changing audience and a very changing set of users in your school, so they need to be trained and retrained again and again about how to deal with malware. Well, it may happen that your system are compromised because of malware, because of a vulnerability in your system, and so someone is able to connect and to take control of your machines. The risk here is that your infrastructure gets compromised. It can be used for bad purposes, like sending spam email, like conducting denial of services attacks, and so on. You can face data leak, so your data being stolen and maybe spread away or sold away, we don't know. Countermeasures here will probably go with a proper detection mechanism. So monitor your infrastructure. Make sure you have tools running that check the status of your services, check what's happening on the network. So you can use tools like Nagios, Cacti, Snort, all those tools that will monitor the system and make sure everything is running smoothly. You can set up intrusion detection systems, which are more advanced tools to monitor the traffic and the activity on your machines and try to identify possible intrusion incidents. You can also run tools like OpenVAS, which is a vulnerability assessment tool that you can run periodically. It's not that hard to set up, and it can give you very useful information about the setup, the state of security of your infrastructure. So it can be very, very useful. All those tools are free. Of course, other paid tools exist, but those tools are free, so there's almost no excuse not to run them. Of course, you have to deal with the users, and users are probably the weakest link in the security chain, so make sure users are properly authenticated and that you give them the right level of privilege. So use long passwords, use strong passwords, renew passwords regularly, force user to change passwords from time to time. Check your logs, check for repeated login failures. That's a sign that someone's trying to connect to your system and is not able to, and this can be a sign of intrusion. Do not let dead accounts open, so check for dead accounts that are no longer used, and close them, lock them. Otherwise, it's an open door to your system. Avoid as much as possible using shared accounts. I know it can be quite convenient so that you don't have to set up a different set of privileges and so on. But if you use shared account, it means that you have no control about actually who's doing what. Backup are a critical part of your security. In case something goes wrong, you will have to restore your system to a previous state, and so you have to take proper backup. Identify what needs to be copied, so what needs to be backed up, when. Is it a daily backup, a weekly backup? Well, it depends on the sensitivity of your data. Decide whether you will run full or incremental backups. Keep a history of backups, because if you only keep one situation, so the situation of yesterday, and your system were infected the week before, you won't be able to restore to a safe state. So make sure you keep a history of backup. Also, do not leave your backup media in an unsafe place. So as much as possible, disconnect your backup media from your online system. Keep a copy of your data offsite. And most importantly, when dealing with backups, test your backup data. Make sure you have actually backed up all the data you needed, and make sure that you can restore your system with that data. In many cases, backups are taken, but when it comes to restoring them, well, the user realizes that the backup was not properly taken and it cannot be restored, and then it's a real catastrophe because the system cannot be restarted and restored again. So I will finish with a few recommendations about dealing with security. It's really about adopting a defensive attitude. So without being paranoid, you have to think like an adversary. So when looking at your system, put yourself in the shoes of an attacker or a hacker and think, what could he do? What would be what would he be interested in, and through which path could he try to reach my infrastructure? So really put yourself in the in the hacker's seat and look critically at your infrastructure. So it's a really different mindset than just building a system. Here you also have to think, what could go wrong? Another principle is defense in depth. So do not be happy with just one line of defense. You have really to put together several lines of defense all together, so that if one breaks, or if someone gets through one or two, well, there's still a third one that will block him from accessing your system. So multiply the security measures, combine them. Always give the least privilege to your users. Just enough privilege to do the work they have to do, not more. Otherwise, it's an open door to misuse or to errors that can lead to severe damages to your system. Do not rely on obscurity to guarantee your security. So no security by obscurity. Do not make things thinking that nobody will guess how you did them. At some point, they will guess. So only rely on strong, proven security measures, and this will be the only way to run a secure infrastructure. An important principle is also about isolation. So instead of having just one big network or just one big server where everything is running, try to build containers to separate the different environments. You can subnet, you can create separate networks, you can create virtual machines rather than having everything running on just one machine. So that the idea here is really to contain an attack in case something goes wrong. So if infection, if intrusion, or a system is compromised, well, only that system is compromised, and the attack cannot spread to the other system. So isolation and running several separate environments, as disconnected as possible, or at least with a very controlled connection. This is really the key to containing attacks to the minimum possible impact. And remember that security is a permanent concern. So security is not just something you do one day a year or 1 week a year. It's really something you have to think about all the time, because your environment, your services, your system, your users are changing all the time, which means that new risks can arise. Of course, some risks can disappear, but mainly new risks can arise, and you have to deal with them as quickly as possible. And one last point, do not forget that one of the major actors And one final last point, do not forget that one of the major actors of the security of your system is your end users. So make sure you put them in the loop, you inform them, you make them aware of the risk, of the challenges, and you train them to use your system properly. Define an acceptable use policy and make sure everyone is aware of it and respects it. Those are really core conditions to run a system in the most secure conditions. But we'll cover some of those aspects in the coming presentations. Thank you very much for your attention.